think that's the negative side of cybersecurity in general.
I mean, yeah, it's cybersecurity, but it's also like IAM can apply to like cybersecurity. It can apply to health. It can apply to like human resource. Like, and it just be how they use the acronym, but then the actual words are all different.
Yeah, definitely.
The fun thing about this space is that um, IAM is in a lot of respects, it's the same thing, but it is applied just slightly differently
Yeah,
in the HR space, in the healthcare space, and the cybersecurity applies to all of them, obviously,
hmm
but identity and access management as a practice is fundamental to it. It's in my opinion, in so many ways, it is overcomplicated,
yeah,
and I feel like we there's a tendency toward jargon to make it seem like it's bigger than it needs to be, right? That keep
yeah,
people out of your space, and I feel like that happens a lot within IAM.
yeah.
I
I can
was
see that.
looking at it from the simple standpoint of, when you like take like Network Plus or Sec Plus, right? And it's like, what is the number one defense against like someone encroaching into your like access vestibule? How do you multi-factor ID card, CAC reader,
Yeah,
thumbprint, eye scanner? Why do I need to call that IAM? It's just a security guard, right?
So so the and I want to I don't know where Rod is. I don't know if he's planning on I don't know if you guys drive this on your own or what it is that you want out of this. I want to be mindful because I texted Rod this morning and I was like, so how are we going to do two interviews and an AMA all in 60 minutes? um, because from my perspective, I'm happy to do more sessions with you guys. I think that this is an amazing mission that I love helping Rob with. So I am down for whatever we want this to be. If we want to make it AMA and then we set up interview, like a separate event for the various interviews, I'm open. I'm open to whatever it is that we want this to be, but I also want to make sure that we're respectful of the time that everybody has put into it so that you get what it is that you want out of it, right?
Hmm.
So I'm gonna run us through it, sir. We're just waiting on one more person to join.
Okay.
I'm trying to get in contact with them right now, but we cut it down to just one interview, just kind of like with the goal being that it's relatively short, but gives everybody a taste of what to expect when they're getting into it.
Okay.
Just waiting for one more to join, and just because he's not responding to me right now, how about we jump into the Ask Me Anything?
Sure.
Eric, if you wouldn't mind, a brief introduction and I guess the first question of how did you get into IT and what led you down the identity and access management route once you got into it?
Sure. So my name's Eric Anderson. I've spoken with some of you guys previously, I believe. Dimitri is familiar, I think. Maybe he was around the last time.
Yep.
Maybe not. Hey there. So the way that I got into this space is just that, honestly, I kind of fell into it. So in the mid 90s, you could get into technology just by simply not being afraid of it, right? My joke was I got my first job in technology because I was able to spell NT. You didn't have to. The bar wasn't real high, honestly. If you were able to prove general troubleshooting capability, it wasn't hard to get onto something like a help desk, which is exactly what I did. I went from being first I was a call center rep first I was an operator for Ameritech, and then I went to be a call center rep for AT&T, and then I changed to a business office in Chicago where I just did some in-office tech support, basically helping people, local support, local office support where somebody had, they didn't understand why something was doing what it did. Because I was a helpful sort, that's what I did. I helped them figure it out. And then in late, right around 97, I took a job. I moved over to help desk for Abbott Labs. If you're familiar with Abbott, healthcare company. I'd never had a job in the space, but I saw a job fair posting basically, and I went out and I talked to them, and I was able to think on my feet enough to be able to get an interview and then get a second interview, and then that's when the fight started, right? So from there, it was just all about figuring out how to do something better. Like, being mentally curious. You see something, so this is a hard task. I want to find a better way to do this hard task, right? Like when I was in help desk, I had how many hundreds of tickets out there that were live in the system at the time, and they were just dead. Nobody ever followed up on them. So what I figured out is that I could connect to that database and effectively run a mail merge to reach out to every one of them to find out if it was still a problem. And, based upon the responses that I got, I was able to go through and close them. And all of a sudden that made me look a little bit different, right? Because I just went through and I just closed 400 tickets. So, it was a great way to pad my metrics. And it was just based upon curiosity, because I was like, I should be able to connect this to that. And if I can connect this to that and read that from there, then that sounds, it's just a way to solve a problem. You know what I mean? I went through and I updated to the next level of tech support. I went to work at United Airlines, and I did, more desk side and engineering support over there. And I decided at the time that I was going to put myself in a position that I could support every distributed system in the airline. So I wanted to understand how every operating system worked. I was not going to limit myself to, I started with Windows. I started working on Novell. If you've ever heard of Novell NetWare, that's for the Gen Xers out there. And then into Unix and Linux, I'd never touched it, but I was so driven to have options that I kept myself uncomfortable. Every 18 months, I would change my job so that I was uncomfortable, and I had to learn something else. And I followed that pattern until I got into enterprise services, which is effectively like LDAP. If you're familiar with the term LDAP. And once I started to look at enterprise services like LDAP, and what later became the IAM space, then I figured out that I was home, because I was always looking for something that was more complex, right? Because I wanted something to understand. I needed something that challenged me. And what I learned about identity and access management. So if we break identity and access management down, in my opinion, it's kind of a misnomer, because there are at least two very distinct practices. There's the identity management, which is like identity and identity lifecycle and stuff like that. And then there's the access management of who has access to what, and how do you make those decisions? And identity and access management is very much the nexus of process and tool. How do you do it? And being able to simplify that has absolutely given me a career. So that's how I got here in a nutshell.
Briefly, you touched on grabbing or going through a bunch of different jobs at the start, and I'm sure a lot of people or a lot of us, while we've been researching career paths and things like that in this space, have noticed it's kind of abstract. Um, is there any career navigation guidance that you would give, particularly after you found the thing that you like, for progressing in that?
So my guidance there, and I do as much career counseling as I can because I think it's fun to help people find a path. Um, I'm very lucky in that I personally have gotten to a place where I'm able to do what I love for a living that pays me ridiculously well, right? And if you love what you do, then you don't work a day in your life. And that's kind of where I am because honestly, I could, if I won the lottery tomorrow, a lottery I don't play, by the way. But if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd still get up and work the next day because it's the only hobby I have. I do it because I love it. It just happens to pay my bills too. But I love helping people find that kind of a path, right? So I'm a very systemic thinker. So what I would ask you is what kind of stuff matters to you? What kind of stuff do you enjoy? Some people really like, there are some people, the people that I struggle with are the people that are just like, I just want to do what pays the most money, right? Because there's all sorts of people like that. One in particular in my past that I can think of that was just like, I want to make as much money as I can for as little work as I can. And I was like, I don't think that those usually work that way. But if you can find something that you enjoy doing, that it helps you invest in it. Because if you invest in it, you get better at it. And as you get better at it, then you're able to set yourself aside a little bit more and be more successful at it. So what I would ask you is, are you all here because of it's my guess that you're all here because of the draw of a cybersecurity career. It's nice to have options, and let's be clear, cybersecurity has a profound number of options today, right? But are you here because you like the attack side of it? Like you want to probe for vulnerabilities? Are you, because then you would embark on a red team, kind of a red team direction where you learn about vulnerabilities and probing and and understanding those concepts, or are you more moved by defense, trying to eliminate those options, which is a little bit more boring if we're being honest. It's less exciting, but it also pays. I think it pays better. Or do you like reading all of the information to see what it is that's happening in the enterprise, to see if to try to detect when something is going on, because which is a very data centric career, right? Is there what part of in this case, what part of this space speaks to you, if anything? That's the first thing that I would ask you.
I know I can answer for myself. The appeal for me is the um, building of a system that has its own its own pathway to ensure security. I find that the most interesting part of it. For me, it's kind of not dissimilar to building infrastructure or something like that, where you're implementing things to make something work. That's what I find intriguing about it. Um, but I'm sure everybody has their own reasons. I know I would prefer to assist in the planning or building or policy of something more than the active defense or active attack of the system.
So you like strategy, and you like integration. Figuring out how the puzzles fits together to meet your mission, kind of thing. Is that a fair is that a fair paraphrase?
Yep, absolutely.
So that's kind of where I am. I don't want to write code, generally speaking. I love finding pictures and data, but I don't really want to write code. That's more low level. I'm a very big picture, very strategic. I'm a strategy guy more than I am and I want to sit down and write the nuts and bolts of how this thing would work. Some people really love that low level design, right? How to do this and do it efficiently. Some people love that side of it. I'm the opposite. I want to do the big side. I want to see the big picture. Understanding that is going to tell you, like in your case, you would be looking, broader analyst, architect is, maybe how you get there. And that would typically find your way through like an engineer path, right? Like when I worked with Rod the first time, we worked at a health insurance company, and what we did, we were responsible for how to perform authentication and integrate tools that existed in the marketplace and how to make them an effective defense strategy to allow people that did not give a damn about cybersecurity. How do I protect that application to make sure and make it as seamless as possible for the person who has to use it, but still protect the application? Yeah. Was there somebody that had a question or?
Hold on just a second, y'all. I'm still here. I just have a call to take.
Okay.
But I'm still listening in.
Okay.
Sorry, just to go off of that, when you were looking, and like once you found that you liked that, is there, like I see right now on your LinkedIn, it says you're consulting, so I can see how that would implement. But where did you gain like the knowledge of the lower level systems so that you could make a more generalized like strategic plan?
Like I said, so a good chunk of that started because I was just curious, right? I understand when I look at a solution, when I look at a problem, I always, not only do I look at the problem that I have to solve, but I also look at the second layer and third layer, because I need to understand how outside influences are going to change the experience that happens inside my problem space, right? Understanding that there is a step or two steps or three steps before and then after that all influence what it is that I have to allow for. That particular curiosity is what led me to architecture. When I was at Blue Cross, for instance, I was hired to go into the identity management team, but while I was there, the network security team attempted to poach me because I had a problem to solve. I had to figure out how to figure out like who was connecting to this server, because it was all anonymous. And I developed an approach, and I used like layer 4 strategies, like IP address and port and stuff like that. And I went through and I analyzed all the data to get back to where it is that the traffic was coming from so that I could track it. I could trace it that way. Mm-hmm. And the manager of the network team is like, do you have any interest in coming over to this team? I was like, no. No, I don't. Thanks for playing. But that curiosity, understanding that my traffic is distributed via a VIP, right? That's outside of my solution, but I needed to understand it because I can't understand what happens, what my service gets if I don't understand what the VIP is doing. And are you guys familiar with what a VIP is? A virtual IP. So it's like a load balancer. And what it does is it accepts traffic. It'll accept a connection, and then it sends it to another server to service the request. So it means that I can give you one address, like www.idalchemy.com, which is my domain. I can give you that address. There's no website there though, so it won't actually do you any good to go to it. But if you connect to that, then it would, you hit that one IP address, and then you might have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 30 web servers that sit behind it servicing traffic, because you need to be able to horizontally scale to service all of the traffic, in the event that people were that interested in what I had to say, right? Understanding how those solutions layer and how they interact is a huge portion of the job of an architect, which is the role that I play.
So Eric, my ultimate goal when I first, entered into this space with the internship and everything, I came from the standpoint like I'm a musician, I'm trying to learn cybersecurity, and after taking my Network Plus and Sec Plus boot camps, it kind of further solidified like my approach of wanting to become a cybersecurity engineer or network engineer. It's really cool to be able to hack and have all these ways to just Google search and find passwords on the internet to access all these massive websites and cameras and webcams and security systems like that. But I feel like I am more so leaning towards securing and fixing problems when there is no true solution to it. Because what I hear a lot of the time is, did you develop a project? Did you develop a tool or a system that you can sell to others to use? I feel like everything's been done, but there's no real innovations. And I want to be able to try to innovate moving forward.
I agree with you in some respects. So I will tell you that, like, your level of return is, I want to be clear, 95% of the budget that happens, maybe that's a little bit overstated. Probably 90% of the budget that goes into cybersecurity is solving 10% of the problems. The vast majority of vulnerability is just basic hygiene. Just don't do stupid shit, right?
Yeah, and it makes sense from that perspective.
Yeah, so you find all of those. You can absolutely find like default passwords. You can turn on your war driver. There used to be applications that you could install on a Linux machine or whatever and drive around, and you would be able to see all of the wireless access points pop up, and it would color code the ones that were never changed from their default configuration. Mm-hmm. So it would actually read real time. It would identify the SSID, it would identify the manufacturer, and then it would try the credential. It would try the default credential and see if it worked, and it would light up green if it was correct, and it would, just not like I think it was Equifax. I think it was the Equifax breach out of South America. They left the password as the default password. It was an admin password exposed to the outside, and they just left the password default. Well, that's just stupid. Right? That's just bad process. Most of your most of your vulnerabilities, understand the risk associated with the vulnerability. You don't have to create something. Let me dispel that a little bit. You don't have to create a product. A product is not necessarily the game, in my opinion. This space is about process. It is about process. It is about understanding. It is about understanding contextual risk. Okay. If you develop a process, if you develop a mindset that allows you to look at any given problem and identify, for instance, risk factors that whatever the problem is that you're faced with, identify those risk factors. So, case in point, I was talking to somebody today about a user experience. You will find, as you get into this field, and time check, we're at the bottom of the hour. I don't know what you wanted to allow for an interview, or if we just want to go for AMA today and then do a follow-up session, because again, I am on board with that. But just today, I was talking through a solution where a federal agency wanted to improve a user experience. What happens right now is you connect to a virtual desktop environment, and it prompts you for an RSA token. And then after it prompts you for an RSA token, then it prompts you for your directory credentials. And after that happens, then you get access to your VDI, unless you're going to this other one, and then you get prompted perhaps even a third time for your directory credentials to log onto that desktop, right? Understand, and then they're like, well, we want to improve this user experience and make it so that you only get challenged once. Cool. With my product, I can do that because I do work heavily with a product, and the product that I work with can do that. But there is risk that's associated with doing so, because when you first challenge, if you have a separate challenge and then you have to authenticate to RSA to get to the directory credential, then that means that unless you're successfully authenticated against RSA, you can't send a bad password to the directory. You don't get that opportunity, right? If I take that password and one-time password, if I take the directory password and one-time password in the same value, and I send them both at the same time, then I can lock out an internal credential from the outside without using MFA. You wouldn't get in unless both credentials matched, but there's risk associated with exposing that credential to lockout from the outside. So understanding the potential risk patterns, understanding the process that you're looking at is the most important thing in this space, in my opinion. It's all about understanding what happened here at station -1, at station 0, and at station 1. Understand what's happening and what's necessary. Process is king, in my opinion.
Is there any forgiveness with the process?
Yes, absolutely. So that is a fantastic question. It is important to note that in order for a breach to happen, so let's work off of the idea of a breach, right? Where information is lost. So that is when you have lost, right? When something happens and you have just lost. In order for that breach to have occurred, many controls need to have failed.
Mm-hmm.
The most effective defense comes in layers, right? Layered controls are the most effective means of protecting your assets. So understanding that somebody had to have, not only did somebody click on a link that they should have, then they also put in the password that they shouldn't have put in. And we also did not have the appropriate multi-factor authentication turned on. So it didn't validate, something they knew because their credential was stolen, but we didn't interpret, something you have and something right? Something being your password and something you have or something you are is how you perform multi-factor authentication. That's what that would mean. So that means that, you have to, you send yourself it sends you a message and you validate it because you have your phone and your phone is associated with you. It's a trusted channel.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a password and, when you send your password, it validates you here. If you don't have all of those controls in place, if all of those controls fail, then somebody walks off with your data, right? But it is not. There is forgiveness because every one of those controls there are layered controls that need to fall in behind it. So if you have an appropriately layered approach, if you have an appropriately layered protection strategy, then all of the controls have to fail before there's actual loss of data. So if you have 4, 5, 6, 7 controls that are all in place, you have to have all 7 of those controls fail before you actually have a breach. So that is the way that most of us that work in this space sleep at night because otherwise, it's an anxiety. It's already kind of an anxiety producing field anyway, but understanding and trusting the process is really the best way to make it so that, you can still function.
Awesome. Just for everybody, I think we're just going to stick with the AMA rather than messing with the flow and jumping into the interview prep thing.
Okay, and I want to reiterate. Let's get you guys a couple of mock interviews. I'm happy to do it. So let's just get something else on the calendar for it. Okay.
Absolutely. I'll send you an email later today to ask what your availability looks like.
Okay.
When you're looking at somebody joining the industry today, are there particular companies or like big or small companies where you think they would learn better practices? Like is one better than the other?
I'm going to say you're going to find, I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say that because every place that I've been, and I've been in some organizations that would generally be seen as pretty mature, right? I've been at large structural banks, large American structural banks, large Canadian structural banks, Federal Reserve, Department of Defense. So I've been around a little bit. What I would tell you is that everybody has their favorite tool, right? There are some things that some organizations do exceptionally well. And there are some things that some organizations do exceptionally poorly. And the way that we move forward as a space is to recognize. So one of the things that's good that comes from, it used to be that everybody would try to get into one company and they would just live in that company for the entirety of their career, right? And we know that doesn't typically happen anymore. And in my opinion, it's a good thing that it doesn't, because there's a lot more cross-pollination of ideas. You learn something. I learned things at United that I applied at Blue Cross, and I learned things at Blue Cross that I applied at all of my consultancies since, all of my clients since. You learn new things when you get exposed to new ideas, because organizations have I have a presentation somewhere on the idea of organizational inertia, the tendency of organizations to continue to make decisions based upon the same patterns, same familiar patterns. And what they do is they mean that you spend a lot of time focused on trying to re-engineer this small portion that you really know well, right? You see the gap in that small component, but you don't ever you don't ever address where the bulk of your risk is, because you haven't actually addressed, for instance, this thing that you don't do well, if that makes sense. It's important for you to pay attention to the things that you're not doing well. And that's hard from a human nature perspective, because you don't want to focus on the things that you don't do well, but that's where your opportunity is to grow.
I got a question.
Sure.
So within the military, we are very, like I say, we're very good at trying to be very proficient at, let's say, building a bridge. But when personnel are bringing up ideas that could benefit the organization and stuff, from the organization aspect, is that what they're looking for? Because in the military, so they're often like, kind of, we'll take your idea, we'll listen to you, but we're really not going to implement that.
So that comes back to the human nature thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that I have the utmost respect for all of y'all for being able to. I think my head would explode, and I just, let me just say that I struggle so hard with the idea of the chain of command that I almost got fired from an organization because I went and I talked to the CIO about a problem, just like you're talking about, right? I was like, this is a problem. I worked for this company. I worked for this company for 2 weeks. I had no access to anything. I went through and I was able to produce like a 4-page list of catastrophic security issues. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the hell is this? Right? And my management is like, oh, hell no. Like, we can't do anything.
Look bad.
Yeah, we don't have the money to fix that. You're making us look bad. Don't bring that up. And I was like, this is a problem that needs to be socialized. So I was told no. And I said, nope, we're going to find somebody else to talk to. And I went and I talked to somebody else. And they said, nope, we're going to find somebody else. And I'm like, fine. The hell with all y'all. The CIO happened to come to an event at my location. And I was like, hey, I got something to show you. And afterwards, it wasn't my boss, but it was my boss's peer. It's like, what the hell did you do that for? And I was like, because we have problems to solve. And if we don't acknowledge that they exist, we're never going to solve them. Like, you needed to ask permission to talk to the CIO. And I was like, fuck you. Pardon my French. I was like, I will ask for permission to speak to nobody. Period. I'm like, we are all acting in good faith. We are all adults here. Now, I am of the belief, I recognize that I'm way off the spectrum in that regard, right? Yep. I am of the belief that sacred cows make the best burgers. So, I don't believe in doing it the way that we've always done it, because that's the way that we've always done it. That is a valid strategy for reducing volatility. Mm-hmm. There is value there, which is why it's so strong in the military. You have to fight a lot of human nature, is the long story, is the short answer to your question. You do have to fight a lot of status quo. This is the way that we've always done it. But if you have a compelling if you have a compelling story, so if you understand the problem and you understand why it's a problem, in the cybersecurity space in particular, you will find that they are more willing to listen because of the risk involved if they don't, right? Because if you see something and they refuse to address it, and it turns into a vulnerability or an exploit or something like that, then that's bad for everybody, right? So in my experience, if you find the right audience, funny postscript to the CIO story, about 3 weeks after I did that, he got fired for an inappropriate relationship with his secretary.
Oh no.
So the end result of that story was that I pissed everybody and their brother off, and nothing happened with it anyway. But I did what I needed to do to make it right for me, right? Because I was representing the organization's best interest. Finding that audience that is willing to listen is part of the deal. It's part of the struggle. It is part of reading people, and it is what you refer to as a very valid concern. And I would implore you to push through some of that discomfort, because it's important. It's important. Trust in your eyes. Trust in what it is that you see. Don't approach it in a non-threatening fashion. Ask the question, right? So a fun tool that I use. I try to ask the right questions to get people to think about the problem in the space that I want them to think about it, so that it becomes their idea that I gave them. So I like to lead via inception.
Yeah, make them think they came up with it.
Yes, that's a wonderful idea that you had, and then they champion it, right? So if you help them see it, then they can help champion it. And let's be clear, it does lead to, you don't always get credit for all of the work that you've done, but let's put it this way: people start to notice that positive things happen in your space, and you develop upward mobility for that, in my experience.
Okay.
But push through that. That's human nature.
I was going to ask, if you were the person that was approached about the issue, how would you have interpreted the situation? Like, would you sit down and say, show me your research, or would you try to recreate that issue or discover it yourself to validate it? Or did you just push it up and say, hey, do something with this information?
So what I did is I kept the receipts. I had data. I had literal data that I shouldn't have had access to, long story short. And because I didn't have any administrative rights at the time, and everybody knew that I didn't have any administrative rights at the time. So I was like, how should I have this? Right? So I had the receipts. What my response there would have been, okay, we need to break these down into specific vulnerabilities, which I had already done. And then what can we do to mitigate each one of those findings? That's the strategy. So once you find the problem, now you have to strategize a solution. And that's one of the things that, in my opinion, I do well. I go out of my way to never present a problem without at least one candidate solution. So if I see the problem, I think about the problem, and then after I think about the problem, then I start to develop kind of a vision of what we might be able to do about it. And once I have that, then I have at least one or more candidate solutions to solve that particular problem, whatever that problem is. That's how I would approach it. If somebody was to bring me that list, That's how I would approach it, because we're all on the same team. It isn't, most people are not trying to embarrass anybody. They're acting in good faith. So I don't want to turn them off from bringing questions and stuff like that. A great there's a good business book, in my opinion, that I don't know how much you guys read. I only read nonfiction because I'm boring as hell. There was a great book in the business space called American Icon, about when a guy by the name of Alan Mulally became the CEO of Ford Motor Company.
Mm-hmm.
And effectively, the whole book is very heavily predicated upon the notion of ivory tower syndrome. So nobody ever wants to bring bad information up. So nobody has the people at the top have absolutely no cognizance of just what kind of a shit show it is at the bottom. And that is problematic. So when he came in, he went out of his way to make sure that was the stuff. Culturally, that was what he wanted to change. He wanted to make it so that you were praised for bringing the problems, identify the problems so that the problem could be solved. And it's an important cultural shift from what a lot of companies have.
Okay.
As we're coming close to the end of the time, Mr. Anderson, I think I'm going to ask you the $1 million question of, if you were new to this space, what certificate, online course, or resource would you look to get or learn from?
I think so. Here is where this is a hard one for me. And that's because I'm gonna spoil the surprise a little bit. In that,
Just learn the skill.
I just learn how to see the world, right? Learn how to be process curious. I've been told that I need to stop saying that I'm an uneducated schmuck. So I'm going to stop saying that I'm an uneducated schmuck. I never went to college. I don't have a single certificate. I don't have a single certification. I have been working in this space for in excess of 25 years. It's harder, steel sharpens steel, so to speak. I had to work a lot harder for my credibility in the beginning, because I didn't have a piece of paper to say, hey, I know what I'm doing. I graduated from, I worked with people. I've worked with so many paper tigers. They can wallpaper their wall with all of the certifications and everything that they have, and they don't do a damn bit of good about helping you understand the problem. That is not to say I am a huge fan of education, but it is a curiosity thing that is going to enable you more than the certification. I will tell you that the primary certification that I personally respect is CISSP. And that is because it is a process driven 360-degree approach to security. That's why that tends to be the one that I tend to respect. Every now and again, I contemplate I should probably go out and get one. I should probably go out and, I could probably get a cybersecurity degree from a competency-based university. I've been doing it for 30 years. So it's not that I don't know the material. It's not been important to me. So I'm a challenging person to answer that particular question for you, because I also hate the notion of hypocrisy, and I feel like a hypocrite if I tell you that, you need to do this, and I'm like, I didn't do that, but you need to do this, and I feel like an asshole.
No, that's totally fair.
With your perception of most of our experience in the military, what do you assume, or what would you say is safe to assume in terms of skills that we already have? And how could we apply that in our journey to become cybersecurity experts?
What I would tell you, so I don't know what skills, I don't know where you came from, I don't know what it is that you've done. I've all I've got out of you guys thus far is a common motivation, right? And a common curiosity. So I don't know a lot about your background, but what I will tell you is this: you get skills everywhere. In fact, I don't know if I have a copy of my resume. My resume actually might be out on. There's an older copy of my resume out on my LinkedIn page. If you've found that, I can send you a link. Shit. What I would tell you is that look at on the resume that look at the function that I have on my resume. So I have kind of who I am. I have a bunch of skills. Your skills, where your skills come from, isn't relevant. Own them. Don't let imposter syndrome take those skills away from you. I helped a woman get a job in IT, and she had gotten a degree in, from someplace, 20 years earlier, and she worked as an over-the-road truck driver, and then she managed a Papa John's, and then so she completely out of the field. But when she was looking for a job and she wanted to get into this field, and she's like, it's impossible. I was like, but it's not. I was like, what are you good at? What are the skills that you had to use to manage that Papa John's? Time management, prioritization, process management. How can you do this more efficiently? How can you do this more effectively? Recognize those things that you do well and promote them, because it doesn't matter where they came from. They are useful. They are useful elements of who you are and how you are going to be able to provide value to a prospective employer. I've had on my resume for, holy shit, probably 20 years. I have had the terms authentication theory and authorization theory. Now, I think that those terms probably get overlooked about 80% of the time. People are like, what the hell does that mean? Right? But what I'm looking to convey with that is I'm looking to convey that I think about what is it that authentication is doing and why. How is it? It isn't password validation. That's not what it is. Look at the business problem. How do we identify what it is that our authentication and authorization? Everybody makes these things hard, but at the end of the day, authentication is, are you who you say you are? That's it. How confident am I in that? because how you prove yourself to me increases my level of confidence. And if I know who you are you allowed to do the thing that you want to do? That, my friends, is access management. That is all access management is as an entire practice. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry that is built on 2 questions. So don't overthink it. Understand it. And don't talk yourself out of it either. Because imposter syndrome will kill you.
I think that's probably one of the main things I'll have to deal with. Having come from, because I'm retiring and I'm coming from the IT side, so I'm probably one of the few that's probably not really trying to go like into cybersecurity. But I love being a signal soldier, so I'm always curious about what we have to learn, how do we apply it, and if anything, how to better the applications of what we have. So.
Yes.
I have a few targeted jobs that I'm looking at, and not necessarily cybersecurity, but I'm looking for like tier 1, tier 2 job, like help desks, and maybe just above that. So
Right.
for me coming into this internship, and even this Ask Me Anything, I'm just trying to get as much civilian experience, because it's one of the things that we don't focus on while we're in the military, obviously, but we also don't prepare people that are getting out the military to
Right.
be able to incorporate themselves and express that they can bring value to a company.
Sure. And there are countless. I want to be clear. I'm not looking for any. I go out of my way to avoid. I don't want to steal Rod's thunder or anything like that. He is so much better at what I'm going to say than I could ever be. But at the end of the day, there are countless organizations out there that absolutely respect, like veteran, the value that the veteran experience brings. One of my favorite people to work with over the entirety of my career was I want to say he was a helicopter mechanic in the Army. I'm pretty sure he was in the Army. The experiences. I mean, you talk about stress inoculation, right? There's something for you. There is a critical skill in this space that you guys are light years beyond, the general populace, just in stress inoculation, because that's part of your training, right? You have been trained very explicitly to deal with stress. Am I wrong?
No.
So respect the value in that, right? That's that kind of stress inoculation. I never learned your kind of stress inoculation. I'm pretty good at, I've been fairly inoculated at stress at this point in time, but that is something that you come in with, and organizations respect that. The ability to adapt and work within a system. There is a lot of reasons why organizations will hire veterans. I think that when you couple that with your curiosity, I think that you're going to find a very solid audience out there.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson, I know we all really appreciate your time. It feels like the hour went by very quickly, but thank you for your time. I'll get in touch with you to try to set up another time period if you have some availability. But I think your insights were very helpful to us today.
Absolutely. And you know what? We can do this fairly regularly. Usually, if it would help, to get together more regularly. I don't want you guys to get tired of hearing my dumb ass, right? If I can provide guidance, I'm absolutely down to get together with you guys and coach you, every couple. I do full disclosure, I have a tendency to overschedule myself. So I do struggle with that a little bit, but I'm totally down with, getting together with you guys every couple weeks, every once a month, something like that. If there are questions and stuff that I can help coach you towards, email me. I try to respond. I'm not always as good at it as I want to be, but if I can help in any way, I'm happy to do it. And I love helping career coaching. So this is something I do for me. So let's get back together. If you're not tired of hearing from me, then we can do it again.
Hell yeah. Eric, definitely. So we should definitely schedule that interview, the mock interviews at some point. I'm sure John will get in touch with that. It would definitely be nice if we could have you on as a recurring speaker. If it works for you, once a month, once every 2 months, because we have our internship is set up. We have interns coming in and out, and usually every few months it's a fresh batch, so to say. So
Sure.
at that kind of interval, I feel like it might be beneficial for the interns, and if you don't mind, we'd appreciate that very much.
Absolutely, and I'm absolutely on board with all of this kind of coaching that I can help provide. With regard to connecting directly to an opportunity, as we've attempted to do, I'm still on board. I'm still trying to work on it, but that's one of those things that, as it stands today, I don't have the direct ability to do it. You know what I mean? So, but that might be changing. So, I may or may not be getting to a point where I would be able to start my own practice, and there may or may not be more opportunity there too. So, but coaching, I can do coaching regularly because this is something I do for me.
Oh, yeah. That's really awesome. We really appreciate that.
So much for the mock interview session. We'll reschedule and do it. We can do two of them. In my experience, most interviews are going to be probably 45 minutes. So book an hour. It's tough to get a real interview experience in less than an hour. Like a half hour for this kind of an interview. It might be tough to get a real kind of experience. Case in point, I worked for AWS for a year. My interview for AWS was in excess of 4 hours long. It was a single call, 4 hours. I got on that call at 9 o'clock in the morning my time, and I didn't get off of that call until after 1 p.m. Sitting in front of the camera, talking to 4 different teams, one right after the other, right after the other, right after the other. So I say that not to scare the shit out of you, but just to say that it might be tough to do it, to give you a decent flavor in less than an hour.
Yeah. Fair point. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll try to structure it that way then, so it can be a little bit more similar.
Cool.
What we expect.
All right. Well, we'll let you go. We don't want to hold you hostage any longer. But we really appreciate the insight you have for us, and we do hope we'll be trying to schedule that interview. Hopefully sometime next week if you're free, but at your earliest convenience.
Yeah, reach out next week. Obviously, next week is Thanksgiving, so it'll be.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a short week, but we should be able to figure something out for,
Mhm.
we should be able to schedule something regardless.
Sure.
All righty.
All right. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Look, gentlemen.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Cool. I'm good.
Whew.
I
John.
really want him to. If he could get to the point where he could like start picking people up, that'd be like perfect. That's like the one thing we need, like for the internship, is like the one thing we can't give is like direct employment. We don't have any fucking jobs to give people. But if we had,
Oh yeah, from you guys.
yeah. If we had that, I feel like our CSP would just like blow every other cybersecurity CSP out of the water.
Well, how would so you can't hire anybody? Obviously, you can't hire anybody straight from like while they're in the CSP. But
If
when
we,
you be,
yeah, not in the CSP.
but when you be able to hire people like after?
We could, but it's like we need the work, and we like our company just isn't like looking for work like that. Honestly, like if we like, so Rod has a lot of contacts and stuff, and people hitting him up. Anytime opportunity comes his way, he'll always like try and get it to like throw it at an intern.
Yeah,
but that's so like it's out of our control, and it's just up to chance. And we want like a systematic way of like actually putting people in jobs.
Gotcha.
Which is like the last thing we're working on.
Right now, it's more. It will be more like a contract. We you for a little bit and then let you go.
What's that, John?
As we all become successfully employed, that might be an easier process.
Do you guys have you heard of a company called Gartner?
Yes.
I heard y'all talking about it the other day.
What's Gartner? I don't fucking know.
I also don't know, but I was told to look at it. That's all I know about it.
They were talking about. He said it was like a consulting firm.
Okay, I just replied to them because I realized I didn't fucking reply to them like an idiot. But they were interested in hit me up in it. We're interested in like hearing more about KIT, like our company. But I sent an email back and I was like, do you want to know about KIT or like our internship? Because I feel like our internship is way more interesting. Because KIT is like we're just on like one project doing some like basic work. Like
so it also depends on what you look up to, because I just Googled them, and so there's like one that's for a management consulting company. Look at this one. So if that's it, I think briefly what he was talking about was like, I guess they want to help with making sure they were in compliance
with.
Was in like they were reaching out to Rod to use his services to make sure they were in compliance with something.
Oh, okay. I did see. I went on the website and there was like a whole part about like it wasn't exactly like talent management, but it was like basically talent management. So that's what interests me. I was like, oh, this might be a way to get some fucking interns, because we're trying to. I need to send out another wave of emails. I want to market this to like companies to where like, hey, we have all these fucking interns. We can like.
That are pipeline and
you want, man.
Yeah,
we can make them learn whatever the fuck you want. We can like breed these child soldiers for you. Ideally, that's what we could do. That'd be especially like I feel like when you guys were going through, did you have to like fight a little bit to like get the CSP for your command to approve it?
Oh no, I mean. Me and John are a little bit differently than.
Oh yeah, XO's in a fucking like 20-year. Yeah, okay, you guys know. You're not struggling like these fucking E4s, E5s.
At Battalion, they were goated. They were in. Like it didn't matter. I was like, let me be free of this, and they're like, okay. But at Brigade, they were big mad about it. So Brigade was up my ass.
I get a lot of like they want to know exactly what cert I'm gonna get and all this shit. Like, are you giving it to me or what's going on? Every sergeant major wants to know that for some fucking reason.
I mean, I think that really depends on the person.
So
generally, E4 and below might be like that, because they don't want them just out there doing something and not
getting anything out of it.
Get something out of it. Like my leadership, they were very because I've done so much for the organization that they let me pretty much. They're like, oh, you're doing that, or you're going to go into this. Okay, hey, take care of you because you're taking care of us.
Low key was like that for me too. I was like, even though I was E5, they were still like pushing back hard because we had like one dude do a CSP and then immediately re-enlist afterwards.
Oh, that'll mess up. That'll mess up for everybody.
And then I was trying to do like 3 months, and they were like, "Hey, man, we really don't want to give any CSPs out." But they like me. They really fuck me. So like, you're gonna be the fucking guinea pig. If you fuck this up, no one's
mess
gonna
it for
grant you a
everyone.
fucking CSP. It's like,
I'm gonna say something about it. Me, I'm not feeling that good. That's why I'm not really on there.
Mhm.
But for me, it was pretty much easy. I didn't have too much issue getting to get to chain of command sign it because I also get it like maybe I'm lucky. I always say because before me there was refusing everybody,
Mhm.
and when I requested it, I got lucky. My commander signed it, and he take the paperwork all the way to battalion to get it signed by the battalion commander in one day. So I was just surprised about it. I was like, okay, maybe that's my luck, and I just push it through.
It took me 7 months to get mine signed.
No, ma, it was signed one day. I was like, it never happened before in my company.
Yeah, it took me 3 days to get it through battalion, and it took 2 months to get it through brigade. And like I was at brigade a lot. I probably went to brigade like 10 times.
Hey John, for you, is it how long are you doing yours?
I think it was like 1 day less than the maximum for brigade, so it's like a little over 3 months.
Oh, so you're doing a 3 month one? Okay.
But so me, I didn't understand I could have requested the three like more than 60 days. So I requested just 60 days, and they told me I can extend it as I progress. So I didn't. So it was just at battalion, not brigade.
Yeah. I thought the max was like it was like 120 or 180, but that it sucks because you can only I think it's only 180 as the max, but the issue is because you can only do 6 months from your ETS, but then you'd have to have a lot of things lined up already.
Well, the problem with 180 days is like the Pentagon itself has to sign that shit. It's like
For that one?
yeah, anything. So 120 days is brigade, and then afterwards it goes to division, but division legal can't approve it at that point. Like somebody else has to. It's crazy. It's like madness. It doesn't make any sense.
I kept mine at 60, so I can just get the battalion commander sign off on it.
I literally the way mine was my commander like pulled me in the office. He's like, "Hey," he was like straight up. He's like, "Yo, I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't want to go talk to the brigade commander about this because it was like 7 months late." He's like, "I don't want to go talk to the brigade commander about this. If you drop it down to 60, I'll make it. I'll get it signed like fucking now." And I was like, "You know what? I'll do it. I just want to get the fuck out of here, man. Just fucking do it." And then that's how.
Yeah.
He literally told me that. My commander told me that shit, bro. My whole army career has just been nonstop. Like I feel like I'm in a movie where no one takes the rules seriously, and that was like the final like are you where am I, bro? What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go.
I wish the other guy, the new people could have sat in on this because, you know, it was like I always say, like you like y'all told us we're going to get whatever we put into this. That's what we're going to get out, and like it's not just easy unless you're going to get out and go back to school. Like you can kind of get a little bit, you know, put a little bit in, prepare yourself for getting out. But if you're not going straight to school when you get out and you don't have a job like lined up right away, like you should get as much as you can and talk to whoever you can. I don't know if John's ready for those 4-hour interviews.
I had a call with this dude. I just like cold messaged on LinkedIn, and it was 3 hours long. Oh,
Hey, who's in charge of this shit? Is it John? Is it John?
who knows?
Who can put the fucking Josh is here, so I'm gonna bring Josh to this shit.
Oh, I think he's
in the backstage. I don't know how I got here. I don't know how I got in the front.
Because I think Ross said there was only so many people that could be active, I guess, in the video, and he said he was gonna be in the comment section.
Oh, he was backstage. What the fuck? What is this?
Stay where you belong, Josh. Right? We don't know how to move you up here.
He just sent the message.
Okay, Josh, Halo. No idea how to get. I hate this fucking app. I don't like using it. I don't know why we do. I know why we do it. We do it so Rod can record, but he's not here, and I don't know how to record. So we just.
I think the host left. I guess.
Who's the host? I thought John was the host. Like he had the fucking.
No, I think he's Eric.
Okay. Wait, no, because Eric joined after us.
Oh,
I don't know.
Who knows?
Wait.
is it me? No.
I think they set it up like he was his section, so it was just like when he was there, we can just get added to it automatically. But right now, we cannot add nobody or
Yeah.
anything.
Hold on. I see Alo and Josh in the chat.
Yeah, fucking shooting the shit backstage. I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna leave this little tidbit with y'all. So the reason I'm with like working with the internship, it's literally it was one day Rod, it was like a Saturday, and Rod was like, hey, I'm gonna be at the Starbucks and to go over like resumes and like over you guys' like 30, 60, 90 day plans. Everyone wants to come. And there's a bunch of people. I was like really new. There's a bunch of people there. And there you guys are. Oh yeah. Hi Rod. Rod, give me a story. I was like, oh, so you muted. So Rod was like, we're gonna go over these plans, right? And there's a bunch of people there. And then I'm like, I really didn't want to go. It was Saturday, and I was like dead as fuck for some shit. I was like, oh. And then in the back of my head, I was like, you should really probably go because this is like you're gonna be a homeless vet if you don't fucking go. That was my thought process. Like, do this, so you're gonna be a fucking homeless vet. And then I went, and I was like the only fucking dude there. And then I guess Raul was like, all right, well, this is the only motherfucker that showed up. So hey, help me out with the internship. And I was like, hell yeah. And I'm here. It was that one decision, that one of like, don't be homeless. Yep.
Not being homeless is a pretty good motivator.
Yeah. I want to break the stereotype. Even though I do like perpetuating the homeless vet stereotype by looking like a bum sometimes. I do. Rod, you missed it. We had the whole. We just did the AMA, and we're gonna schedule the interview for maybe next week or probably a week after because it's Thanksgiving, which I forgot.
Yeah, I have a standing Friday conflict, but I knew that was the time that he was available, so it was more important for you guys to get him talking. He's one of those guys, like you saw, once he starts talking, he doesn't stop. Like I had the live stream on one computer and I was in the other meeting and I was watching you guys talk, and he was definitely talking like most of the time. Did you guys get a lot out of it?
I think we had some really good questions that he gave, not just like a simple answer to, but kind of like a overarching answer to help solve, or at least I was able to like hear the answer to the question, but then he also gave like some before and after information that kind of help fill some other stuff.
That's good.
And then he started using a bunch of other. It's weird again, right? I've been going to all these like virtuals and classes, and I hear the word terminology that you talk about, Rob, more and more often as we talk about the Google Workspace and Amazon, and the terminology is there, and it's shared. It might sound different, but if you can understand it, then you can actually work in a lot of different places.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He said we should read American Icon.
Yep, read American Icon.
Also, I just want to say, I thought John looked professional, but then Josh actually has Breaking Cyber Intern on his fucking thing. So you guys are
Yeah, you HR. I've been meaning to comment that for a while.
I had to put the HR because I don't even know if fucking Eric knows who the fuck I am. just get the point across.
I feel bad. I ain't got nothing.
My P&P class just moved from slide 5 to slide 6 over the last hour, so I'm gonna unmute that and start listening again.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna jump out and I'm gonna start doing some studying.
All right, everybody.
Sounds
like you guys had a good time. So
yeah, it was very helpful.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was good.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Right, let's like you and me. Let's use this as like a